This webinar is all about how Apache Kafka is transforming Hadoop, Spark, and Storm. So basically, this Kafka is actually initially it was designed uh, by the LinkedIn, uh, and LinkedIn was looking for some kind of messaging system which they can use in their own production environment, which can hold their load, and then later on they can push that messages for analytics in Hadoop or SDFS. So from their side, the major challenge like they whatever the systems they were having, the architecture what they are having, with that architecture they were pushing huge load. They were pushing something around millions of messages, 2 to 3 million messages per second, and even more. And the load was expected like it may grow in future. So keeping the scalability in mind, they wanted a messaging queue where they can push the messages in the real time, and later on the messages can be stored in a file system which they can use, and they can analyze those file system. So that was the thing which was then in mind while the LinkedIn was designing the Kafka. So for designing this tool, this messaging tool or messaging broker tool, they initially considered RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ, and other messaging queue brokers, seeing like if they can use these things. So initially the messaging queues were not distributed. They got the performance was later on improved, and we got RabbitMQ and others which are like now distributed also. So when they got distributed, but the performance was not up to the mark what they were looking for at that point of time when Kafka was designed. Nowadays you're seeing the messaging queues which is giving even higher performance, but when the Kafka was they were designing that time, they were not there was no messaging queue which was like in touch or close to what they were looking for. So initially that was the design idea when they started with Kafka. So ultimately the ultimate goal was like they wanted to push messages to the SDFS, but as it was a real time data pipeline, so they cannot push any messages in the real time to SDFS because generally it will take time. So they wanted to store, and then in bulk they wanted to push messages to the SDFS for storage. This was the challenge with this Hadoop, and this they developed only for Hadoop when they LinkedIn developed, but later on people started using Kafka, and they started using with Spark and Storm also for real-time analytics, and it fits so well in real-time analytics. Like you can connect Kafka with your real-time application where your messages are getting produced, where you're producing your records, and then you can push those messages and records to the your real-time processing engines. So processing engines could be like a Spark streaming, or it could be Storm also. Basically you can push to any. And not only this case, like in case your system is having heavy load and later on you want to process those messages, and with your own Java application and Spring application, you can still use Kafka for that purpose also. I have seen in one use case in one of the leading e-commerce website, they were using Kafka to store all the orders, and later on they were sending the emails and all the offer letter, or to all the guys who are just ordered something. Like today, whatever orders they got, they will store all the details in Kafka, order details and the customer details, and once in the night time, they will pick one by one they'll consume all the messages, and accordingly they will send their offers and other information to them, but not in the load time. They'll store it, and they will use those messages in the async time. So even the same thing was applicable for LinkedIn also. LinkedIn wanted like a few messaging systems if they were able to solve their problem, if they will create a big cluster of them, but none of them was writing the message to the disk. They were not durable. So this was the other challenge which they were getting. They wanted the messaging system which can store the message in disk, because if SDFS is the issue with their data pipeline, or they're not able to consume now, they want like they can consume the messages later on. Scalability was one point, throughput was the second point, and your durability is the third point. So basically these are the points which was there in LinkedIn's designers, like the people who were designing or coding your Apache Kafka. So once they have done the system, they contributed the system, later on they donated to the Kafka, and Apache Kafka now it is like a top level project in Apache. Apache Software Foundations, and now most of the data pipelines are the people are developing the data pipeline, real time streaming data pipeline using Kafka. Okay, so guys, I'm answering this question. This question is from Ashish, and Ashish is asking, Ashish Rastogi. The question is, does Hadoop administrator useful for Kafka? Definitely Hadoop administrator useful for Kafka, or I think it's like is a Kafka useful for Hadoop administration? Means the guy is a Hadoop in Hadoop admin, and whether definitely if you are working, let's say both ways. Uh, if you're working in a Hadoop data pipeline, one or the other day you want to store the data of the real time. Like for example, currently you're working for some application, real-time application. On what this application is doing, it is analyzing the orders, the client behaviors, but after some time means like 1 day, 2 day, or 1 week time, they're analyzing the historical data. But once they will start getting the load, and now they want to analyze on daily basis, or they started monitoring the system, and the monitoring system will happen in the real time. So in all the cases, you want once application that can process data to your SDFS. On top of that, you can generally do all your analytics using Pig, Hive, or MapReduce. But you need those messages to be the data to be there in SDFS for that. So definitely, currently, if we are not working for Kafka, we are not working in a real-time streaming. But definitely in future they will come. 1 second. Sure. No, this was something which I just, yeah, this is introduction guys for Kafka. So let's go deep. And there was one question from Nayan Patel, and even from Nayan is asking how Kafka is different from a Spark. Nayan, I think this question you'll get like once we are completing this session. By end of the session, I think you will be getting this point, how it is different from the Kafka. The next question is like ingestion. How can I use Flume or data ingestion instead of Kafka? Am I correct? I can also use that. Yeah, definitely, Ravi. We can use either of these tool for data ingestion. But thing is, you will not get that throughput. You will not get that throughput. The throughput with Flume is like you will get some thousand of messages, but you need more. Then in that case, Kafka is required. Purpose is same, but definitely this performance and your things matters. Okay, so what we learned today, the $1,000,000 question, why we need Kafka. So this is first thing. That's what I was trying to explain, the design point from the LinkedIn side, like why LinkedIn designed Kafka and how they started thinking about a new messaging broker, where there were few messaging brokers and they were working good, but because their requirement was totally different, and that was the reason why they started working on new messaging broker altogether. And this we discussed. And Kafka, what is Kafka architecture. I think this once we discussed like what is Kafka and Kafka architecture. I hope this answer like what Nan was asking, what is the difference between Kafka and Spark, or Kafka and Storm, or Kafka and Flume. Probably these you'll get answers automatically once you have the clear picture of Kafka. Then, because Kafka is a tool which you're using in your data pipeline, it could be real time also, it could be historical also, your batch processing also. In both the cases, it fits so well. Like now, currently, people are using with batch processing also, and they are using with real time also. So, all the real time analytics, like we are doing real time analytics for monitoring. What monitoring I'm saying, like for example, the monitoring tool is like, let's say you have Ganglia is a well-known monitoring tool, and you install Ganglia on your all the clusters, on all the nodes in the cluster, and this Ganglia is pushing matrix data at a window of 5 milliseconds or 10 milliseconds. You know the matrix, the Ganglia will push matrix, something like your CPU matrix, your application matrix, your JVM matrix. So CPU, your disk matrix, network matrix. So all these are the all matrix which you will get from your system. Like for example, CPU wise, you will get Ganglia is pushing matrix at very small window, that is 5 to 10 seconds window. And you know this monitoring is all about real time. This monitoring is all about real time. If you're not monitoring, you're not reacting in the real time, there's no use of monitoring. Just monitoring your system whether this is failing or pass. If you're able to analyze the error in the real time, if you're able to understand your behavior or state of your system in the real time, you can see like, okay, this issue may come in the future, there's a help in monitoring the system. But if you're you're collecting the metrics or monitoring the system and all the monitoring data you're analyzing at the end of the day, then there's no point. So you have to analyze the data in the real time itself. So when you're analyzing the real time itself, your tools are like a Spark, or your Spark is streaming, or you're using Storm, then in both the cases they can analyze some records like 2 records, 3 records, 5 records, but they will also analyze record by record, one by one. So you cannot push millions of messages because, for example, let's say Storm is not having any memory. Your Spark has, but Storm is not having any memory. There's no memory there. They have queue, but where they can hold some records, not these many records. So somewhere you need a tool which can hold some messages, and you can push only those messages which your Storm and Kafka, Storm and Spark can hold, and they can process that message. So this continuous stream of data will be continued, and these tools can process the tool, and they can push the result or their analytics somewhere in your database or any persistent storage which you can use. So that's why this tool is become so important, which you can fit in any data pipeline as a real-time or its batch processing data pipeline. Companies using Kafka, here we'll see like what are the major companies, bigger companies which are using Kafka. There's use, the list is what we can put in one slide is very small. The huge lot of companies we are using the Kafka and demo on Kafka message service. So at the end of this session, we'll see some kind of a demo, how we can push messages, publish messages to Kafka broker, and how we can consume messages from the Kafka broker. Then I'll show like where we need to do the changes and how we can integrate Spark and Storm to the Kafka. May not be the demo because we are list, time bound of 1 hour, but definitely like I'll tell you how we will connect or we integrate these things with Kafka. So let's dig deep. Kafka. So $1 million question: why we need Kafka? This is very genuine question, because if you see the messaging queues or messaging message broker systems, you have so many, and they have good performance also. So even though if I'm saying okay, I was expecting something better, and what your messaging systems are not giving me the performance which I was looking for, then what exactly was the performance which I was looking for, and what is the difference between the two? Right? If I'm saying throughput is the, then throughput also, what was the throughput we were looking for in a big data or real-time streaming systems, which these messaging queues are not able to provide. And the other point is like scalability, scale out, and scale up. So how much scale out we need. So these were the points like when you have something, and why the LinkedIn, they have not seen or considered these messaging queues before starting working on Kafka. So this is the answer for them. This is the answer for all your questions. Like when they perform this test. So guys, these tests are a bit old. These were performed some years back, 2012 I believe, and 2012, and that point of time they have considered, so the best messaging queue was Revit MQ, and the second best was Active MQ. The people were using these MQs a lot, so they compared the performance of Kafka with these messaging queues, and you can see the difference. You're like you're when you're starting using active MQ is something around 1000 messages per second. This is your frequency, which is still like 1000 or 10,000 or million messages per second, whereas you have your produce messages in MB, like how many messages they can consume over the time, like MBs of messages they will consume. And here, like next after active MQ, the performance was there for your Revit MQ. And you see if Revit MQ, this is somewhere consist without somewhere around 20,000 or 40,000 the value they were giving that point of time. But then they developed the Kafka, and they compared the results with Kafka also. And Kafka for batch 1, in Kafka we can push messages to broker in form of batches or single message also. But for batches is good because there you're utilizing your network properly, and network bandwidth properly, and you can push more and more messages, and even the buffer size on both the sides of your connection of your client and the broker. So with single message, if you're transferring single message every time over the network, still they are able to get something like 40 to 50,000 messages, but it was keep on changing. Because what in your Kafka, you have some kind of queue that is called as Kafka client has queue. That queue is called as the client queue, or you can also say their server queue, uh, client queue. Whenever you are pushing some messages, generally Kafka stores in queue in the client side, and whatever the queue limit they have given, by default the queue limit is around 10k. So once it is reaching with that value, then Kafka is pushing all the messages in one shot to the broker. You can alter that configuration. You can create your own batch also, and you can also create the change the queue size of your Kafka. So when you're pushing the messages in batch, the performance was totally different. The performance was totally different, and it was touching something like millions of messages per second, with more clusters. This is single Kafka, and then they started adding more clusters. So because Kafka is distributed, so they started adding more, and the performance was they were able to increase up to millions messages per second, and this was too much for them, and they were looking something same tool. Now this is expandable. Whenever they see like there's more load, they can add new broker to the cluster, new server to the cluster, and then they can handle that load also. So they're here, they are having the performance, the throughput, which is far better than others. Like for example, your others were somewhere here, and your Kafka with best size is somewhere here. So this is the difference between your Kafka and the other messaging queues, which is huge, which is huge. So this was able to solve their purpose. There are few tools. There is Falcon. The Falcon is available, and there are some other tools like people are using Flume and others. But the totally, even Shakawa is one tool. But all the ingestion tools, there's like Kafka is king. Kafka is king. But Falcon is still not. As people started much user, but I heard like Falcon can give something like billion messages per second. But still people have to put the Falcon also in the productions, and they need to analyze the Falcon performance also. But the Falcon will give challenge to Kafka, but currently for sometime Kafka will be the king. And if Kafka, if you are able to more and more systems, Kafka can give you billion messages per second also. But there are tools in market, but it totally depends on your need, business need, what kind of tool you can use. No, Scoop is totally for different purpose. Arihant, this is totally for different purpose. Scoop you're using when you're connecting with DB, and RDMS to STFS, STFS to RD maybe RDBMS. But here you are not restricted to databases. This is basically your source could be anything. It will take messages from your real-time applications also, the file also, and you can write your own client. You can write your own client, and from there you can send the message to this. Yeah, it is both. It is both. It is import export both. Aryan, Scoop can RDMS to STFS, STFS to RDMS both. So this was the one for producer. The slide. Producer is something which is writing message to the broker. We'll see the producer and the consumer. Flume, if you you don't have this much of performance required for a system, you have very small load, and something like you are happy with 2000 3000 messages, plus you want to do some kind of modification in the messages, means like you are receiving some message and there you want to some kind of analysis or some kind of filtering you want to do with Flume, then probably you can continue with Flume. Because Flume you can receive the message, you can open the message, you can change something, you can add, delete something, you can whatever you want you can do with the message. But for Kafka, they don't touch your message. They don't touch the message. Whatever message you're sending, same way it is dumping that message in the disk. Let's say, okay. And consumer. So consumer difference also, if you see when they compared with RabbitMQ and the other, so ActiveMQ is something started less, but later on it started giving better performance, something like 5000 messages per second. Whereas your RabbitMQ started well, something around 6 7,000 messages per second. Then over the time it was decreasing and it was less than 5000 messages per second. Whereas Kafka, a clear champion. It was somewhere 20,000 plus messages per second were able to consume. But in Kafka, you have a scope where you can use and you can make things work in parallel. You can make things work in parallel. How we can do that? In Kafka, the way we are writing messages to the logs, to the Kafka brokers, we can divide the messages there in different files, that is called as partitions. So we can create partitions of the log, and here the same number of partitions we can start these many threads called as consumer threads. So we can start as many as consumer threads we want, and we will have that much parallelism. So for example, you have broken your file into 5 partitions. So basically you can run 5 threads to work in parallel to consume the messages. So whatever the performance was there with one thread, your 5 threads will give exactly the 5x performance of the system. Yeah, one example I'll give from my project itself. One example, like we were also using Flume, and we were fetching the logs. Basically, we were doing the log aggregation work, and we are collecting the log from different servers, and we were pushing those logs to the Kafka, and by the Flume to the Kafka, and then Kafka to Storm for analyzing those logs and the metrics logs and others. But in the productions, when we saw like the load which is coming is huge, and Flume was not able to push more than 3,000 messages per second, 4,000 messages per second, and we were generating something like more than million messages per second if from all the systems, if I count from all the systems. So Flume was a bottleneck in my complete data pipeline. So here in these cases, Flume doesn't fit. Flume doesn't fit. So what we did, removed Flume and we directly started communicating with Kafka. This is one case when your performance matters and you should not use Flume. The second case, you are getting some data, real-time example itself. You are taking the data. In that data you want to add some new fields. For example, you want to add, like, this data is picked from this server, this particular server, or you want to apply some kind of compression algorithm on that data. So in all these cases, you can take the message and you can club the message like 10 or 20 messages, 30, 50 messages, 100 messages, and then you can apply the compression on top of it, and then you can send it further or you can apply your security algorithms on top of that. So that way you can use, because Flume, the thing is, Flume you can modify the message. So you need to come up with your business case, where if you need someone to modify your business case, your messages, so what all you can modify, but Flume will provide you the service where you can modify the messages. Can Kafka store messages? Yes, Kafka can store your messages for as long as 7 days, and default is 7 days. You can give it more higher number, and once the disks are consumed, you can add more. But in Kafka, the every message is getting stored with SLA, their own time to live, and once their time to live is reached, the message will be deleted. So every message is there for some time. The time is configurable, that is your TTL, or time to live time, or retention period you can also say. So but using in this retention period, your message is always available for consumption. Even though someone can consume it 10 times also, it will be there for consumption, but the only condition is like it will not be there after your retention period. So guys, this was the performance of consumer, and the difference was huge with consumer, and this all producer and consumer performance are shown with a single broker. Whereas Kafka is distributed, you can add multiple nodes to the Kafka, and then even the performance and the for producer and performance of consumer will increase further. I didn't get this question, Ravi. Doesn't Kafka massage the data? I think questions are used. So let's do one thing. Like, let's go through the theory first, slides first, and we'll take all the questions at the last, so that we can complete the session also. I I I, I know like from where we need to start answer, and I think from Jatin, the question like when Flume will be advised to use, that's what I answered, and from here I think 9:22 will start answering the questions. But you don't hesitate, you can post your questions, so once you are done with the section, and then we will take the questions. Fine. Hey. Okay, so features of Kafka. So in features of Kafka, you have few features. In the last few slides we are discussing all features, so most probably, like, like high throughput. You saw the difference between other messaging queues and your Kafka. And the best part with Kafka is like for achieving this performance, you're not using any enterprise hardware. You're using all commodity hardware, modest hardware. So with the cheapest hardware, you can able to get higher performance. Scalability. Kafka is distributed, so it is always the benefits of the features of distributed are there with features of Kafka. So Kafka is also a scale out performance. You can add new systems, brokers in the system and in the cloud in the cluster of Kafka, and you're good to go. And the time we need to add a new node to the cluster is very less. You need not to restart your complete cluster. You just need to start your new node. That's it. Your node is started. Node has to communicate with Zookeeper for coordination, and they are good to go. Replication replication is a big uses. I think the people who have worked in Hadoop or SDFS, they know the importance of replication. Using replication, you are handling data fault tolerance and failure also. So here replication means like whenever you are getting the message, basically the same message you are storing in multiple nodes, multiple brokers. So why we are storing in multiple brokers? Because in case if one of the broker is going down, you still have other brokers where you have the same copy of your message. So anytime the consumer, for consumer there will be no change, and they will get the message from some other broker. No coding change, no configuration change, no restart required for this from consumer side. For example, till now they were receiving the message from broker 1, and broker 1 went down. The same consumer, without any chance, it will come next time. Next time means like whenever it is getting execution, so it will come with next execution and it will get the message from the Kafka second Kafka broker. So for consumer side, there's no impact. That's why it's like with replication, they can support any they can handle any fault tolerance. Durability. As Kafka is writing each and every message to the logs, to the logs, data logs in your Kafka broker on your servers. So that's why it is durable. Once Kafka has received the data, it is guaranteed like your message will not be lost, because nothing is in memory, right? So even though your broker is going down, it will come up and everything is there in your disk in logs, so nothing is lost there. Durability. Stream processing. The Kafka can support million of messages per second, and the same speed it can be consumed. The delay in the Kafka, which is we have noticed, is like 1 to 2 milliseconds delay, and that is like nothing. Like when you're pushing some messages to the Kafka, you push 100 messages to the Kafka, and as consumers are trying to consume those messages, so basically the delay for storing that message there in disk and the reading the message there from the disk is like total delay is coming around 2 milliseconds something, which is like your message, your data pipeline is still real time. And data loss, there will be no data loss. If you're configured properly, there will be no data loss. Even from the client side, if you're using Kafka client to communicate with Kafka, your client creates a queue with it, right? So whenever there is a problem with network or something, they have time out configured for every send. Like in case you are not receiving the acknowledgement in that particular time, they will try to resend the message. In case you're sending the acknowledgement, you're using the ACK mode of your client. I'll explain what is ACK mode and what is sync mode, sync and async mode. So features, indirectly they are also your advantage. With Kafka, we can easily handle hundred and thousand of messages in 1 second, even millions of messages in 1 second. We have thousands because they're talking about single broker, and it could be changed to millions also when you can add more and more nodes. The cluster can be expanded with no downtime, making Kafka highly scalable. That's what the scalability of Kafka is. Like whenever you see like in system in the production, there is a huge load on the system. What you can do, you can bring up new Kafka broker without changing anything on the existing cluster. Just bring this cluster up with new broker ID and new path and just add to the system cluster. This will be up and it will be automatically connected to your cluster, because all nodes are communicating to your Zookeeper, and Zookeeper will help them in providing the messages, so that way you can handle the load. Messages are replicated, which provides reliability and durability. So each and every message, you while creating the message itself, and you're sending to topic. What is topic? I'll discuss. Like a topic is a name, or you can say the category under which you're writing the messages in your Kafka. So whenever you're writing something to Kafka, you have to associate this message to some topic. So every topic has their own replication factor. So if the replication factor is set to 3, the same topic will be replicated on 3 different brokers, or ultimately 3 partition log files will be replicated on other nodes. Fault tolerant, as messages are replicated, in case if it is going down also, there are other brokers where you will can get the message. In case all are going down, only you have not lost your message. Once they are up, you can get your message back. Scalable, yes. Scale out. Kafka is scale out. What is Kafka? So till now we were all about, like, we heard all the things around Kafka. Now we'll come inside the Kafka. So Kafka is distributed publish subscribe messaging system. First of all, it's a your messaging system. And if you know, uh, if you anytime you guys have worked on messaging systems or messaging brokers, they are of two types of brokers. One is like publish subscribe brokers, the other is like traditional broker. Traditional, like where you're single queue brokers. Basically Kafka is publish subscribe, but if you limit your consumers to single consumer group, it can also work as a traditional messaging systems. So it's a distributed publish subscribe messaging system, plus it is scalable, reliable. So the complete definition, if you want to form, it will become like distributed, reliable, scalable publish subscribe messaging system, developed at LinkedIn Corporation, and provides solution to handle all activity stream data. So it was developed, and why it was developed to handle all activity stream data. So whatever the activity stream data they are getting at LinkedIn, they wanted to push everything to SDFS, and they used Kafka for that purpose. Fully supported in Hadoop platform. Kafka has clients in all possible libraries. You can see the Kafka clients are there in Java, they are in APIs, REST API, and they are in Python, they are in Ruby, they are in Scala, they are in C, C++, and like that you have whatever the language you have, they are supporting almost all the languages. All the languages. The client you can write the client in any of these languages. So once you have, so these are the languages which are using in our Hadoop platform. Either it's SDFS is a normal Java. If it's some other tool which is developed in Scala, Scala is there. If something is in Python, Python is there. So these are the tools which are there. You have all the uh, clients available with for Kafka. Partition real-time consumption across the cluster of machines. So whatever the consumption we are getting, the load we are getting, it is dividing this load into multiple brokers. So this way it is not putting entire load on a single system. The load is distributed. Provides a mechanism for parallel load into Hadoop. So here in Hadoop, when you're saying like, okay, here you have multiple uh, data where you can run multiple map jobs which can read the data from your Kafka, and they can store data in your SDFS. So generally people are using map jobs for reading the data from Kafka to SDFS. Overview. So anything which is pushing messages to Kafka is called as producer. Is called as producer. Any application, it could be a front-end application, it could be an external tracking proxy, or any which is pushing. It could be a background service also. It could be your background submit. For example, it could be anything which is pushing messages to Kafka, which is publishing messages to Kafka, is your producer, and any application which is trying to consume messages from Kafka is your consumer. Is your consumer. So basically, it could be anything. So you understand the term producer and consumer. Any application which is pushing message to the Kafka is producer. Any application which is trying to consume the message from Kafka is your consumer. So same thing, producers could be front-end services, proxies, adapters, as well as other producers. So anything is your producer, and all the Kafka brokers are talking to or communicating with Zookeeper for their coordination. They're not talking to each other, they're talking to Zookeeper. They're talking to each other only in the case of replication when they want to replicate the message. Otherwise, for all other communication, they are talking to a Zookeeper, and all the consumers are trying to consume the messages. Could be warehouse, Hadoop, and real-time consumer means Spark streaming as well as your Storm. Kafka core components. So Kafka basically has like topic, producer, consumer, and broker. Topic is a feed or category for which you're publishing your messages. For example, whatever example I gave just few minutes back, you are collecting logs from your systems, you are collecting the metrics from your system, and also you are collecting the activity data from your metrics, like what your user is doing, what your users are, where they're collecting, what are the items they are checking and all. So or what are the user activity you are noticing. Now when you want to push this data to your Kafka, you have to push to some particular topic. So that's what here we are saying, that you can do, you don't want, you should not also, and you should not put all the streaming data to one topic, and the same topic you are pushing to matrix data also, and same topic you are pushing to some other data also. Because what will happen if you push everything in the same topic, for consumer it is very tough to identify like which data is of which type. You have to either enter in field. So in case if you have different consumers for different types of data, then you need to, it will be like you need to different code, and then you need to find from the message basis and call then consumers. So it will be like bit tricky. But here if you divide in multiple topics, you can assign one topics to one consumer groups, and all consumers can consume the only that message which they are looking for. So while pushing or creating topic, you should be very careful like what kind of categories you need and what kind of data you are planning to push, and who are the consumer which will consume message from this particular topic. Producer, publishing message to the Kafka topic. Consumer, they're subscribing and consuming the messages. Broker, generally in your messaging queue system or messaging systems, we call them servers, but here because it is working like message broker system, we are calling it as a broker. The server is called as broker. So this broker is the process, or is the machine where you will store your data, where exactly you will store your data. Kafka topics. So just now I explained, topic is nothing but topic is your category where the messages are published, and each topic you can divide into multiple partitions. A topic you can divide into multiple partitions. Why partitions? Because you can create multiple log files. Partitions are nothing but in log files. So if you think normally, like if there is one file and you have multiple threads writing to one file, like when only one can write at the moment and another has to wait, even though you have more CPU available, but still only one can write to the file. But in case you have multiple files, you have 3 to 4 files, in that case what will happen, your 3 to 4 threads can work parallelly. They can start writing. So your partitions are nothing but partitions are log but under one topic. Each partition basically contain an ordered immutable sequence of messages. So this is very important concept in terms of Kafka, and to understand the fact like how Kafka is getting this kind of performance. What they're telling, each partition is a log file where actually you're writing your messages. So these partition files are ordered means like if the message which came first has to be the first message, the message which came second has to be the second message, third message, like that. So the way they are coming, they are stored in the same order. Second, immutable sequence of messages are your immutable, you are not modifying, you are not cannot modify the messages there. And where each message is assigned a sequential ID. So every message is having one ID. That ID is called as offset. That ID is called as offset. And these offset are calculated on the basis of the length or size of your messages. For example, first offset is created with 1. And then second offset will be there 1 plus the length of your offset. 1 plus length of your message. So that will give you the complete offset of the second. So same way on length basis you can compute the offset in the Kafka. So writes of partition are generally sequential, therefore reducing the number of hard disk seeks. So this point is, reading messages from the partition can be random. this point is the like whatever we covered the is third point, and this point is actually coming because of third point. So if you go through this and this, I think probably you will understand. But what they're trying to say is, as your logs are ordered, it means the person who is consuming can consume in the same order. Can consume in the same order. Mostly people will try this approach to consume in the same order, because otherwise if they are not ordered, what will happen? Your hard disk has to seeking is the process of searching for the particular block in hard disk. So they have to apply multiple seeks to find the data in your hard disk. But when it is ordered, somebody is asking you, give me the 10 MB or give me the 2 MB data from the disk. So what they will do, they will take starting first 1 MB file, whatever data is there in 1 MB data, they will push the data to the uh, consumer. So in that case, it's like you are accessing the data sequentially. You are accessing the data sequentially, and this sequential manner is actually saving your disk time. It is making your system faster. And 99.99% the data, how the data is retrieved, because it is sequential. So your kernel can predict, like next time if someone is asking for x, next time this guy is gonna ask x plus y is the new records. So this will be the location for the new records. So what they will do, as per your fetch size, they will try to keep the messages, read messages from the disk and keep those messages in memory. So whenever your consumer is coming, it is always getting the data from memory. That's why 99.99% your consumer is getting data from memory. It will be rare like when it is not there in memory, then they will hit the file system that get the data from the Kafka producers. These are applications which are pushing message to your Kafka cluster, can be any kind, front end, streaming. So while writing, just now we discussed one topic, like topic and partitions. So topic is a category under which we are creating log files where we are writing the data, actual data which is coming from the client application. Now thing is, how producer can know like to which partition log file. They know the topic name, they know the topic name, okay, this topic we want to write, but the topic is divided into n number of partition file. So your producer has to somewhere, client has to decide whether I want to write one by one all the partitions, or I want to write only to one partition. To attach the to finalize this thing, you will send one key that is called as partition key with your message. So this partition key will identify or will help you to a broker in understanding like this particular message has to be stored in this particular partition file. So this is the way they will stored. Same key will arrive in the same partition. So if you are giving the same key, it will always go to the same partition. Why? Because the logic in Kafka is to calculate the hash code. For hash code, if input is same, output is also same. So this will always go to the same partition log file if key is same, and they will be consumed by the same consumer. Because Kafka limits, like it will, whenever the number of consumer threads are coming, it is assigning one partition to every consumer threads. They should be equal. In case if you have more threads, then two threads will not get any data. In case you have more number of partitions and less number of threads, then probably one or the other thread will get more than one consume more than one partition log files. So in both the cases, it's not good. It's always good to have the same number of producer as well as consumers, 3 to 3 mapping or 4 to 4 mapping. So here, if you are trying to push a key with the message to the broker, then your same number of brokers can consumers can consume the messages. And when Kafka is assigning these threads, the partition log file to these threads, it always sees like, okay, one by one it will give. So always the same message which are coming to one partition file will always be consumed by a single or same thread. Your producer generally work in two ways. Like producer can wait for your acknowledgement or they will not. They support both the types, async types and sync type. In sync time, they will wait for your acknowledgement. Like when you're saying acknowledgement, like these are the messages I've received successfully, then only it will send the new message, or it will keep on sending the new message acknowledgement. And async mode, it will not wait for your acknowledgement for broker to send acknowledgement to the client will keep on sending the messages. Okay. And the consumers, The consumers are the application which are trying to consume the messages. So in consumer side, basically you can uh, group multiple consumer threads and call them a consumer group. So this consumer group, basically they should consume from the same topic, message from the same topic. So during consumption of message from topic, a consumer group can be configured with multiple consumers. You can create multiple threads to consume from the same message, same topic. Each consumer or consumer group read messages from a unique subset of partition and each topic they subscribe to. This is the very good point. That's what I was trying to explain. Like if you have 4 or 5 partition log file, then you need 4 or 5 consumer threads, and your broker will assign one-to-one mapping, like one partition file, one consumer. Message with the same key arrives at the same consumer. Supports both queuing and public subscribe. So it supports both type of your messaging systems. Consumers have to maintain the number of messages consumed. So this is another important concept. Like whenever you have consumers and you're trying to consume the messages, so there somewhere you need to write, you need to store the state of your consumer. Like for example, consumer is running for last few hours or few days, then certainly they have consumed some offsets, right? So next time whenever they are getting chance, or they're getting chance to execution, they should not consume the same message again. They should not consume the duplicate message. To avoid the duplication, what you will do, you need to store the state of consumer. So next time your consumer can pick from the same state and they can start consuming the messages. So this is the logic behind saving the states. Because sometimes the duplication can give serious issues. Like for example, you are trying to calculate average value or min value or max value of your time, or some computation. If your records are coming duplicate, your data is totally different, it's not the actual data. Brokers, now brokers are the servers. That's why your producer are the client, consumer are the client, and who is servicing your this client? Your brokers are servicing these clients. So broker is the server, but here we don't call server, we call them broker. Handle hundreds of MBs, write one producer from producer and reads from consumer. That's what they're doing. They're able to 100 of MBs. If I say like millions of messages, when they are giving, your producer is giving performance of million messages per second, that time actually it is giving you a speed of 100 MB messages per second. 100 MB per second. Retains all published messages irrespective of whether it's consumed or not. So basically your Kafka broker is not like it's storing messages for few days or it's in memory, so whenever server is going down, every message is going down. They are storing messages in your disk, and in your disk they can retain those messages for longer time. Published messages available for consumption for configured n number of days. After that they will be discarded. So you can store the message for your retention period, and after the retention period only they will be discarded. Now this is how their this logic works. Like producer A and producer B, if you have two producers and in your topic you have multiple partition files. So here from producer A you can decide, you only can decide, like I want this message to go, I want this message, particular message to go partition log file, and this message to go to partition 2 file. So how he can guarantee that this message has to go to partition file? He has to send similar key. Here he has to send the similar key. So once he has the key 2 and key 1, if key 1 is going to partition 1, it will always go to partition 1. If key 2, but he has to restrict to that key. For all the messages which are coming with key 1 will go to partition 1, and others will go to partition 2, but initially they have to make sure like, okay, this is the key is going to partition 1. For producer V, only one, so no need to pass any key, directly it will go to this, or they can also pass key for 3. Like says is allowed. Guys, we'll go to the questions. It's almost, we are close. So how Kafka can be used with Hadoop? So for integrating Kafka with Hadoop is nothing but integration of Kafka with your SDFS. So there are so many tools, but the preferred tool is from your LinkedIn, and they initially started using tool called Cameo. This tool was name was like CAMUS. It was a French word, and they were calling it as Cameo. and later on they started, now they stopped, and they even the code is there, but they try to push this now, Goblin. So Goblin is your new tool for Kafka to your SDFS integration. Basically, these two tools are your MapReduce program, and they are MapReduce program. They are trying to read, they'll start multiple mappers, and these mappers will start to communicate, consume data from your Kafka, and then they will try to push a small files to your SDFS. This is the Camo which they are using. So you can see like Camo is a LinkedIn Kafka SDFS pipeline. It is a MapReduce job, distributes data load out of Kafka. So your Kafka platform, they'll try to read from the data Kafka, and they'll push to Hadoop. And from there, someone, all other analytics tool can use that data. In it processes tens of billions of messages per day, and you can think, right? If it is something is receiving million messages per second, then in a daytime, definitely they will consume more than billions messages. Single Hadoop job, they can push messages from to here to there. Now, this was all about for Hadoop integration, and in case with Spark actually with Kafka, you generally people will use for real-time streaming, and that for that you have Spark streaming, and with the Spark streaming, you have consumer given by Kafka Spark API itself. This is called as Kafka Spark consumer. Kafka, I wanted to write Kafka Spark consumer. So basically, this Kafka Spark consumer can is providing, which will communicate with your Kafka, and it will provide the message in form of D streams to your Spark streaming. And there you can use your Spark streaming D streams to convert D streams to RDDs, and then your normal Spark processing will work, and it can process the data. The only difference between Spark streaming and Spark will be like in Spark, your batch size is huge. When you're in processing, your batch size is huge, but here in Spark streaming you will create very small batches. The batches size will be like two messages, 10 messages, 5 messages, and you can bound them on basis of time. Like your D streams will wait for that much time, whatever message they have received in this 50 30 milliseconds or 1 second, and then they will push those messages to the your broker, and then broker can analyze those messages. Not sorry, your Spark streaming can analyze those messages. So this is a Spark streaming. The messages are stored in n partitions, parallel reading making things faster. Generally in Kafka, messages are stored in public multiple partitions. Parallel reads then effectively achieved by Spark streaming. So basically you have different kind of consumer APIs. So this API is Kafka Spark consumer API. That API will help you in reading the data from the Kafka. It's a normal consumer API which you can use, and then you can get the data. My suggestion is don't use the, like there are multiple APIs. This Kafka high level consumer API. This API is good. This API you can use for testing for a system, and it's very easy, very simple to use, and you can verify it is working or not. But when you go with productions and all, you need to use simple label consumer. The consumer is having varieties: simple label and high label and Hadoop consumer. So Hadoop consumer implementation is your Hadoop to Kafka integration. Your Spark integration and Storm integration is basically simple label integration, simple consumer. High is for testing purpose. Generally, this has problem like sometimes it may reload the same message. Like in case it is going down, it will start reading from the start. So it doesn't maintain the state so well. So, but in a simple label consumer, your state is maintained nicely, and you will not repeat the same messages again. This is how it will work. Your applications are there, and these applications are pushing messages to Kafka under some topic, and then here somewhere here you will use your consumer API I should write, and this consumer API will convert these events into streams, D streams. Your Kafka streams will work in D streams, right? So it will work them in D streams, and your streams then will convert it to RDDs, and from there your normal Spark can work, and it can process all the messages. In a spout case, in a storm case, your storm is designed such a way like it has one component which is meant only for reading or consuming the message for, and then they can send the for the further processing. So processing, you have something like Bolt. These are the bolts which are actually meant for processing and analyzing your data. But you have something called as spout. The spout is actually meant for reading data, so that they can push the data. It will read the data and can push the data to the bolt, and that bolt will analyze the data, and further it can push the data to some kind of persistent storage, your bolts. But when you're connecting with Kafka, so your Kafka has provided a spout called as Kafka spout. It's already there. Now you can integrate using Kafka spout. It's a simple level consumer API. You can use this API and you can communicate with topic. And this is Twitter is the one example where they are using all. They're using all. There's a Kafka broker, Kafka spout, and to using this they are analyzing the tweets and all. So companies using Kafka. So these are the companies who are using Kafka. LinkedIn is because they developed and they are still using. Your Twitter is using Spotify and Coursera. There's so many. This is these are the big names, and even the small startups are also using Kafka because it's open source and it's from Apache Software Foundations. So whenever there is a need of any messaging queue, instead of taking some enterprise edition or other editions, they will go for easy to install, simple to configure, and then they can go ahead with. So it, this is all about introduction of Kafka, and once we enter in this course, we actually go for the coding part, where how to integrate your Kafka with your Storm, Kafka with your Spark, Kafka streaming, and Kafka with your SDFS. So these are the details for batches, and next is with 10th October weekend batch. Other things, guys, you can see. So this was the slide for theory, and now I can take the questions and also I will start the demo and so on. Okay, when Flume will be advised to use, Rajiv? So Rajiv's question is like when Flume will be advised to use. So guys, now you know, right? The performance, the first thing performance, and second the modification of your message. Whenever you have these two tasks in your thing, you need to go with Flume, but you cannot avoid the performance thing, because if your system is giving heavy load, Flume cannot handle that load. It will become your data pipeline, a bottleneck in your data pipeline, and nobody wants that any bottleneck in your data pipeline, because for real-time systems there should be no bottleneck so that all can work in parallel. Where do you use Python? So this guy has left. Okay, so Python, basically here we are not using Python, but you can use Python in your client application, and you can write your producer client in Python. Suppose you have application which is running in Python, you can develop your client also in Python, and there you can communicate with Kafka. Can you tell some real-time examples of Kafka? That's what I told. Can Kafka store messages? Yes, Kafka can store messages as per your retention configuration. It can store, by default it is 7 days, but it can store for longer days also. Can Kafka working scenarios where only a message will be the only one consumer for processing, instead of public subscribe where the same message will be broadcast to all? It is like when you are doing some kind of monitoring system, and but message is same, but in that messages the consumer has to take out some field and then they need to analyze the data. In such cases you need to publish the message to multiple consumer groups, so they can take the data which they are looking for. And when you have like only these kind of messages should be consumed by only one consumer group, then you can go with single one-to-one mapping. Doesn't Kafka message the data? I didn't get this question. Does Kafka manipulate the data? No, Kafka doesn't manipulate any data. Kafka doesn't touch your data. Whatever data you are sending, Kafka just stores the data in the disk. How Kafka provides fault tolerance in case of failure? It is replicating the data, Ravi. This question is from Ravi, like how Kafka provides a fault tolerance. So Ravi, basically Kafka replicates your data into multiple brokers. So in case one of the broker is going down, still you have the same partition log file in other brokers, and the consumer can consume from there. So there is no data loss. Next question. Yeah, you can use any security algorithms, Shamal. Sure. Basically, Kafka from Kafka side, we are not getting any security. You can put in your client and you can apply your security in ends in the producer ends. You can compress those messages and you can apply the security there. Are you going to talk about Kafka Hadoop, Kafka Storm and integration? Uh, there was no such time, Ravindran, because if we start uh, discuss one topic in detail, Hadoop, it will take us to go for the code and see like how it is integrating. But the way it is integrated, that we discussed. We are using TIBCO EMS for the healthcare data messaging system. It is very robust. Do you have any comparison metrics for EMS versus Kafka? Uh, we do not have any metrics as such for TIBCO EMS versus Kafka, but seriously I would like to know what is the performance of TIBCO EMS and how many messages we can produce, we can push to TIBCO EMS, and how many messages we can consume. How we use Kafka. So Kafka we need to Prabhash, Pravashish, for Kafka, for using the Kafka, we need to bring up this cluster, Kafka cluster, where we can install multiple brokers, and then consumers and producers should be as per your data pipeline from where you want to push data to Kafka. It could be Flume or anywhere where you want to push data to Kafka, and the consumers are trying to consume the message from any other applications. Yes, yes. Prakash, we will make this presentation available. Usually, what is the size of Kafka? What is the size of Kafka is suggested? Size of Kafka? Kafka is a processor, and if you're saying talking about the max size is allowed, or okay, max size is allowed. It totally depends, like how much, how many brokers you have, and how many messages per second you are able to push. So there's no limitation on that. It totally depends what kind of cluster you are trying to bring up. Any limit on message size? No. There's no this limit on message size. That is because uh, it's basically it is configured with 1 MB. You can change that, but it is because you have to separate application producer and consumer talking. So somewhere you want to limit your producer, so that same way you can configure your consumer. So that way, like it should not be like your producer is able to push something which consumer is not able to consume. So to make both in sync, in broker we are trying to limit message size. It was disconnected from my side. Can you please let me know what is the data ingestion? Dinesh, data ingestion are the tool using which you are trying to push data to any external source, trying to read from somewhere and push somewhere to the consumer side. Does Kafka validate message using any schema validation? No, Anand, Kafka is not doing any validations. It message from the Kafka. Shabrashi, we cannot delete the message from the Kafka. You need to configure your SLA, your retention period for messages, and then Kafka will handle deletion. Yeah, we can do hands-on, Aryant. I'm just trying to answer the questions. Our messages are always sequenced with partition or log files. Yes, they are always in sequence. That is your offset ID. Is there any tool available for integration of Kafka and with Hadoop? That's what we discussed, Camo and Goblin. These are the tools which are available for integration of Kafka with Hadoop. Message size, your message size we discussed. Can I run Kafka in standalone mode? Yes, you can run. You can run. Data ingestion tools I answered. Dinesh, let me know if you want me to explain more. As in, Can I run Kafka in SDP desktop sandbox? Yes, by default in SDP sandbox you will get Kafka. So you need to install or configure there. It's already there, and you just need to start the Kafka brokers. Is Zookeeper required for the Kafka cluster? Yes, Zookeeper is required for the Kafka cluster. Most basically, your producer and consumer are talking to broker using Kafka, using Zookeeper. Your consumers are storing offsets value, their state or offset value in Zookeeper, and from there they are trying to consume the messages. And your brokers are also talking to Zookeeper for their messaging ID for their status update. So all three components, producer, consumer, and broker, all are talking to Zookeeper for coordination. Can we publish object message to Kafka? Yes, yes. So that we can do that. I mean, to any UI tool. Rajiv, UI tool. Is there any tool available integration with Kafka and do? There's no UI tool. This is not a the tool is available as a MapReduce job, Rajiv, and this MapReduce job is basically for your integration for Hadoop to Kafka. There you cannot see anything like what is going on and happening. Basically, you can see your name node or UI system, and there you can see the directory where your tools are writing the files, where you are writing the files. There you can see the status there. Is the code written in Scala? Yes, Kafka is written in Scala. Some Scala, and there is 10% the some clients are written in Java. Can filtration based on the business category implement in producer? Producer basically always, Arvind, it's up to you the way you want to design your producer client. But for them, they are simply in producer client, they have the connectivity with the Kafka brokers. They know like how they can connect to Kafka brokers. They have the logic of how many messages they can push in one shot. And the other thing is they know the compression and other algorithms. But rest of them you can code, and then you can use directly the API to send the message. But what message they are sending, you are sending, and what filtering you are doing on your messages, it's up to your application logic. Producer doesn't come in picture there. Is data enrichment possible in Kafka? No, no. So guys, let's move on to hands-on. So what I did, I created opened three terminals. Basically, I wanted to show something on the three terminals. That's why. First thing is, as your you can download Kafka from Apache site, and you can download and you can put somewhere in your system like the way we did. So this is your Kafka, you downloaded and you untar the file. So this is your directory space where you have bin, config, lib, all the sections. So once you have done this thing, you can go and update your batch profile for your user. For example, you're using batch. So here you need to set Kafka home where you have loaded and untar it, and you need to update your Kafka bin. These two things to configure Kafka, and make sure your Zookeeper should be configured for that because it has dependency with Zookeeper. So Zookeeper is also configured and the path is also updated. Class path is also updated. So once your all the things are updated, first thing is we need to start your Zookeeper first. So Zookeeper start like what wherever you have a Zookeeper, like for home, you direct for us. This is the version we are using, and for this it is like win and zk server dot sh and start. So this is the command which we can give to start your Zookeeper. Currently it's up here. If you see the Zookeeper process, the process will come like quorum peer main, and this is your Zookeeper process, and it is up. Your Zookeeper is up. Next thing is you need to bring up your Kafka. So bringing your Kafka, same where you have your installed or untarred your Kafka, you need to go there Kafka to. So this is the directory for Kafka. Just go for bin Kafka server start. In your bin you have one script. That script is called as Kafka server start.sh, and Zookeeper Basically the Zookeeper base is required for your Kafka integration, that will be covered. How we are communicating with Zookeeper, that also be covered. And the next slides are like the messages in the Kafka, how the Zookeeper configuration can be maintained, and other like where Zookeeper is writing logs and some debugging. But it will not be in that detailed, or I don't think there is much detail in Zookeeper. But the way it is doing the coordination, that will be handled. So once you have like bin kafka server.ss, and then you can go with config, because it should be up with configuration, what kind of configuration we are picking. So here we have server.properties, we can use server.properties, kafka server start.sh, and you can give your configuration file. So using this you can bring up your, guys, I think is this font okay for you guys, or you want me to increase the font? Looks like okay to you guys. Thanks Dinesh. So let's start. So once your Kafka is up, you can see something like this outs in your logs, in your screen logs, like Kafka server console and 0. 0 is your broker ID. Is every broker is having one unique number associated to them. This is called as broker ID, and this is how your Zookeeper identifies how many brokers they have currently. So this is coming started. It means your server is coming up. So what you can do in next, you can see check JPS, see the Java process, which Java process are having. Now you'll see one Java process named Kafka should be up, should be up. Next thing is like, now we want to create some topics. So in bin folder, you'll see some kind of scripts are there. So one of the script is your Kafka topic.sh. One script is like Kafka topics.sh. So what you need to do, you need to create, these are the commands. Basically kafka.topic.sh is nothing but internally it is a Java class, and you're trying to call that Java class. But instead of using the, otherwise you need to learn so many classes. So what they created some kind of scripts for us, so we can use directly those scripts and run the classes. Underline, there are the classes. Scala, few are Java classes. Just create hyphen zookeeper localhost colon 2181. So this is Zookeeper details. What kind of my Zookeeper is there? What is a host name? What is the port number? Zookeeper URL basically. Next is replication factor. How many replications I need for this topic, and then you can define how many partitions I need for this topic. Let's say I created 3 partitions for this topic, and then the topic name. My name is like this is webinar, and this is 6 October. So this is 6 October webinar. Let's create, so here this is a command to create a topic with replication factor 1 and partition 3. I didn't give a replication factor as something a bigger number, something like 2 3 or something, because this is, there is a limitation, like you cannot have a replication factor greater than your number of brokers. So I have only one broker, so max, there's no point if I have one broker and I'm giving more than that replication factor. So that's why they restricted it from code itself. So replication factor should always be less than or same as number of brokers. Okay, so my topic I created with webinar 60 folder, and under that we created number of partitions 3. So basically what it does now, you have Kafka logs 0, whatever the topic you name you're given, basically underline your Kafka is creating a directory with that name and your partition name. So for example, I gave webinar 6 October and I gave partition as 3. So partition 3 means how many files? 3 files. What are the files? Webinar 6 October 0, 1 and 2. So this is partition number 1, this is partition number 2, partition number 3. Let's go to 1. And if you see here, these are the two files. One file is index, this maintain your all your indexes for your file, and the other file is your partition log file. This file will store your actual data, whatever data you're trying to push. This file will actually store the data. Same way you can go with others, go to others, like 1. Here also is the same thing, and currently all the files are empty because we have not pushed any data yet, messages yet, so all are empty. You can see the 3 and all are empty. But how many files they created 3 files because we gave partition as 3. Okay, so now we have Kafka up and running. We have created topic name is webinar under 6th October, and with partition file 3. So what Kafka has given one your API to you guys to verify your cluster is working fine or not. Those are called as console producer and console consumers. Console producers and console consumers. So the uses of this is just to verify whether your cluster is working fine or not. So console, let's say I'm writing one console producer program script, and the topic name. So if you see this command is all about Kafka console producer.sh. What is my broker list? Means if you have multiple brokers, basically you can provide all the brokers, comma separated brokers. So you are giving broker list, local host dot local domain. Actually, this host name for the system is this host name is localhost dot local domain. So localhost dot local domain colon 9092 is a port for your brokers, and then you have given your topic. What is the topic? This topic. Let's say now we'll run our consumer, the consumer console consumer. So same thing. So console consumer.sh, and this consumer will talk to whom? They will talk to Zookeeper. 2181. This is what local Zookeeper details, and then what they are trying to read from which topic? They are trying to read from this part. Oh, they are trying to read from this particular topic, and then you need to tell from where they can read. So and for the time being I'm telling from beginning. I started my consumer. Mhm. I started my consumer, and this consumer is waiting. There is no messages there, but this process will keep on running. This is continuous process. Now I'm starting my producer. I started pushing messages. Hi, hey. So the latency, if you see from here to here, not only this, and you need to see this also. The messages were not written to this particular partition log file. Let's check the other 0. You can see the messages are updated in partition number 1, and we'll see the other partition. Probably it will write only with 1 because we are not passing any partition key. So now you have 3 windows to see. So one window you are writing the messages, in one window you are trying to consume the messages. This is consumer, this is producer, and this is your server. And if you see wherever I'm writing, it's currently the size is 183 bytes, and I try to add new message like Spark Storm. Now 0, see the size now, 245, and same thing will be your consumer Spark Storm. So guys, this is just basic of your Storm. The hands-on are like how you can push messages to the Kafka, how you can consume the messages to the Kafka. When you integrate this Kafka with any real-time application like Storm and Spark, so basically we need to write a consumer. Your normal spout code, those are already there. So we need to integrate those tools, and we need to understand how the consumers are working. If you want to write your own consumer for that, and the other thing is like when you're integrating with Hadoop, the tools are there. You can either use those tools, or you can also start in case you have in future you have different requirement, because currently Cameo was supporting only Avro sequential format serialization. So in case if you want new one, what you can do, you can write your own format, and you can uh, your own application for integrating Kafka to Hadoop, and there you can support new forums also, new formats also. Guys, this is it. I'm wrapping this session here. So hope to see few of you in session.